Despite its many flaws, Attack of the Clones was a major technical achievement at the time of its 2002 release, opening the door for better projects to take full advantage of its advances in visual effects technology. Between this and the film's massive all-star cast, there are tons of stories, trivia factoids, and anecdotes about its production that are really interesting. I'm Ewan, you're watching What Culture Star Wars, and here are 20 things you didn't know about Attack of the Clones. Number 20. Samuel L. Jackson's lightsaber has "bad motherfucker" engraved on the hilt. It's well known that Samuel L. Jackson specifically requested that his character Mace Windu sport a purple lightsaber, a request which George Lucas decided to grant during post-production. God bless you, SLJ. But a lesser-known fact about Windu's lightsaber is that, according to Jackson himself during an interview with Graham Norton, his lightsaber prop had the phrase "bad mofo" engraved on its hilt. This is, of course, a reference to Jackson's Pulp Fiction character, Jules Winfield, having the very same phrase printed on his wallet. Number 19. The working title was Jar Jar's Big Adventure. Much of the ill-placed ire from fans regarding The Phantom Menace was directed towards Jar Jar Binks, at best, because clearly adults have a hard time with characters being obviously intended for children. And as a joking rebuke to the mass fan hatred, Lucas decided to give Attack of the Clones the working title of Jar Jar's Big Adventure. You tell him, George. Number 18. Christian Bale, Heath Ledger, Colin Hanks, Paul Walker, and more were all considered for Anakin Skywalker. Unsurprisingly, the hunt for an actor to play a grown Anakin Skywalker was extensive, with more than 400 actors reportedly being screen tested for the part. In addition to budding, lesser-known actors, the part also saw auditions from the likes of Jonathan Brandis, Devon Sawa, Joshua Jackson, Ryan Philippe, Colin Hanks, and Paul Walker. Furthermore, Christian Bale, Heath Ledger, and Leonardo DiCaprio were also considered, and though DiCaprio confirmed meeting with Lucas about the part, he ultimately declined to appear. Christensen ended up winning the role primarily due to his chemistry with Natalie Portman, and because Lucas thought that they quote-unquote looked good together. Number 17. The script was finished just 1 week before shooting. The Phantom Menace's wildly mixed response caused a major rethink on Lucas's part for the sequel, and he was said to be hesitant to put pen to paper. It was only in March 2000, 3 months prior to Attack of the Clones' shooting date, that Lucas ended up turning in his very first rough draft of the script. As Lucas iterated upon his ideas while sets were being built, he hired writer Jonathan Hales, who previously wrote numerous episodes of his series, The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which is quite underrated actually, to help punch up the final draft. Ultimately, the shooting script was completed just a week before principal photography started, which is rarely an encouraging sign. Number 16. The Outlander Club is one of the film's few full sets. Hayden Christensen said that he thoroughly enjoyed filming the sequence at the Outlander Club because this was one of the film's few sets that was entirely tangible with no digital extensions or blue screen elements. Considering it's one of the few scenes in the movie that feels lived in and truly real, it's a little surprised that any actor would find the experience hugely preferential to using their imagination within a sterile blue room. In moments like that, we're all Ian McKellen screaming into the blue void of darkness. Number 15. Ewan McGregor is wearing a wig and fake beard in some scenes. Though Ewan McGregor grew his hair and beard out to play Obi-Wan Kenobi for the movie, he went off to shoot Ridley Scott's epic war film Black Hawk Down shortly afterwards, which required him to be clean-shaven and sport a tight buzz cut. And so, when George Lucas recalled McGregor for Attack of the Clones reshoots, his appearance didn't even remotely match that of the original shoot. As a result, McGregor was kitted out with a hairpiece and fake beard, which are pretty easy to notice during several scenes, particularly when he talks to Anakin in the elevator, during the scene at the Outlander Club, at the Jedi Temple with Mace Windu and Yoda, and when interrogated by Count Dooku. During some of these scenes, Obi-Wan's hair and beard even changed noticeably between shots. It's easily missed if you're not looking for it, but once you know, you'll never unknow. Number 14. Every single clone trooper was CGI. The use of CGI throughout Attack of the Clones is pervasive enough that, according to the film's animation director Rob Coleman, not a single clone trooper in the movie, is actually a real person. Nope, every clone trooper is entirely digital, with no full practical trooper suits ever being built. Instead, Industrial Light and Magic kitted out their employees with just a clone trooper helmet and footwear to perform motion capture for the soldiers. Though this wasn't really obvious at the time of the film's release, and I mean, I'm shocked to discover this too, it's much easier to spot on more recent, higher fidelity releases, where the clone troopers have a slightly unnatural, plastic-like sheen to their outfits. Number 13. Anakin and Padme's dinner scene was heavily improvised. One of Attack of the Clones' more memorable scenes, for better or for worse, involves Padme and Anakin having dinner in a villa on Naboo, and despite how carefully controlled basically everything in the movie appears to be, a good deal of the scene was actually improvised. Unhappy with the romantic dialogue he'd written for the scene, George Lucas invited Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman to improvise their way through the flirtatious chit-chat. The pair have a quick back and forth about aggressive negotiations, and this was entirely ad-libbed by the two actors rather than from words on the page. It's certainly more convincing than the pre-designed moment that follows, where Annie feeds Padme a CGI pear by floating it across the table. I have so many questions. Why are they eating just one pear? Why does he slice it so clearly and equally? Why is everyone laughing? I'm so uncomfortable. Number 12. NSYNC filmed a cameo that was cut. Every so often, a hard-to-believe urban legend about Star Wars actually turns out to be true. It's been whispered over the years that impossibly popular boy band NSYNC filmed cameo appearances as Jedi in the movie, cameos which were ultimately cut by Lucas. And as ridiculous as it sounds, it's actually entirely true. Though band members Justin Timberlake and Lance Bass were unable to attend the shoot, the rest did indeed shoot cameos for the film. They originally showed up as Jedi who fought during the Geonosis battle and appeared in the background during a conversation between Obi-Wan and Yoda, rather than opting for the more obvious choice of being a funky alien boy band, which would have been way better. Though it's never been 100% confirmed for certain why they were cut, the band believes it's possibly due to the pre-release backlash surrounding their rumored roles in the film. Either way, somewhere in a Lucasfilm vault lies the footage of NSYNC in the movie. Hashtag release the NSYNC cut. Do it, you cowards. Number 11. It was the first film made by virtual filmmaking. Despite Episode 2's excessive approach to visual effects integration, Attack of the Clones is nevertheless a groundbreaking movie in helping revolutionize the nature of movie production. Producer Rick McCallum called it the first film created through virtual filmmaking, because the elements that went into a given scene were often remotely produced across different countries or continents and composited together by the VFX team. Number 10. Terrence Stamp declined to return after having a miserable experience on The Phantom Menace. Terrence Stamp appeared in The Phantom Menace as Chancellor Valorum, though opted not to return for a part in Attack of the Clones after his less than pleasant experience on the first film. In an interview with Empire magazine, Stamp was merciless as he criticized George Lucas's directorial style, saying, "I didn't rate him that much as a director, really. I didn't feel like he was a director of actors. He was more interested in stuff and effects. He didn't interest me, and I wouldn't think I interested him." Stamp was especially disappointed that he expected to be working with Natalie Portman, only to arrive on the Australian set and learn otherwise. On the day I'm supposed to do my scene with her, for which I travelled halfway around the world, I said, "Where's Natalie?" And George says, "That's Natalie," and points to a bit of paper on the wall. It was just boring. Evidently, the big bucks weren't enough of a lure for the classically trained thespian to fly back to Australia and spend a few more weeks acting in front of a blue screen. But can you really blame him? Number 9. Count Dooku was originally designed as a female alien. Though it's absolutely impossible to consider anyone else but the iconic Christopher Lee playing Count Dooku, the character was extensively redesigned throughout pre-production. Initially, Dooku was intended to be a female alien creature, and Lucas also cycled through other concepts such as Dooku being a killer fairy and advanced robot. Ultimately, these ideas were all scrapped, and a more conventional humanoid was designed after Christopher Lee joined the cast. However, one of the rejected female alien concepts was eventually recycled for Asajj Ventress, a Dathomirian witch who went on to appear in the expanded universe and most notably the Clone Wars animated series. Oh yeah, and she kicks so much ass. Number 8. The droid factory sequence was added during reshoots. By far one of the most divisive sequences in the movie is the lengthy CGI-slathered droid factory set piece, which only helps bloat out an already long enough film to 142 excruciating minutes. Curiously, the scene wasn't actually part of principal photography at all, as Anakin and Padme were originally captured as soon as they arrived on Geonosis. But after Lucas decided that the sequence needed some more action to help punch things up, he added the droid factory detour in reshoots that took place during March 2001. As won't surprise anyone who's ever watched the scene, pre-production on the sequence was rushed, with Lucas hurriedly pre-visualizing his desired shots for the shoot, while actual physical live-action shooting was completed in just 4.5 hours. Number 7. Industrial Light and Magic created 2,817 effect shots for the film. If you want a clear picture of just how CGI-heavy Attack of the Clones truly is, Industrial Light and Magic created an astonishing 2,817 VFX shots of the film, though only 2,000 of these actually ended up in the finished cut. Given that the film's total shot count was 2,161, it's clearly no exaggeration to say that almost every shot in the movie has some sort of VFX element, 92.55% to be precise. When you consider that even something as large-scale as Avengers Endgame had only 2,496 effect shots, that Lucas came close almost 2 decades earlier is undeniably impressive, despite the film's inferior execution. Number 6. 3 of George Lucas's children make cameo appearances. If you're one of George Lucas's children, how could you possibly resist asking your dad for a cameo in one of his Star Wars movies? Well, Daddy sure came through in Attack of the Clones. His daughter Katie appears in the Outlander Club as a purple Twi'lek named Lunai Minx, and her sister Amanda also shows up in the background of the scene as an alien by the name of Ad Nama, clever, while Anakin and Obi-Wan are talking about the Changeling. As for Lucas's son Jet, he plays young Jedi Padawan Zet Jukasa, originally named Warpock Skamini in the movie but renamed in Revenge of the Sith in the Jedi Archive scene where Obi-Wan visits Chief Librarian Jocasta Nu. Number 5. George Lucas subtly altered Jango Fett's death for the DVD release. We know all too well that George Lucas has a penchant for fixing his movies and subsequent home video releases, though one of his revisions for Attack of the Clones DVD release actually makes sense. In the movie's original theatrical cut, it wasn't quite as clear that Jango Fett's jetpack malfunctioned while he tried to flee from Mace Windu in the seconds before the Jedi cut his head off. And so, for the home video release, Lucas added some distinctive sparks to Fett's jetpack to visually sell the idea that his jetpack was indeed busted and prevented him from flying to safety. Number 4. The Naboo Meadow scene is a parody of The Sound of Music. One of the most ridicule-worthy sequences in the movie is surely Anakin and Padme's goofy frolic/picnic/roll around in the grass on the lush Naboo Meadow. And while the scene illustrated above all else that romance really isn't Lucas's forte, the filmmaker did include some actually intentional tongue-in-cheek elements. Namely, the beautiful wide shot of Padme spinning around in the meadow was a direct nod to an extremely similar shot from The Sound of Music, where the title song is performed and the audience is introduced to Maria von Trapp. Number 3. It was the first Star Wars film to feature a CGI Yoda. Though the Zoomers among you could be forgiven for assuming that The Phantom Menace was the first Star Wars movie to use a digital Yoda rather than a practical puppet, it was actually Attack of the Clones. While the Blu-ray release of The Phantom Menace does indeed feature a CGI Yoda, anyone who saw the movie in cinemas or on earlier home video releases knows that Yoda was originally a puppet and only changed to be CGI years after the fact. This was due to early VFX tests for an all-digital Yoda proving unsatisfactory, and only on Attack of the Clones could ILM finally hit the required standard of visual fidelity. And so, when Episode 1 hit Blu-ray years later, Lucas decided to retrofit this new digital Yoda into the movie. Number 2. Captain Panaka Panaka was originally supposed to appear. Hugh Quarshie had a small but distinctive role in The Phantom Menace as Captain Quarsh Panaka, Queen Amidala's chief of security at the Theed Palace. Lucas invited him to reprise this role in Attack of the Clones with the intent for him to be killed in the opening assassination attempt on Padme. However, Quarshie only agreed to sign on for the sequel if he could read the movie's entire script, and when that request was refused, he opted not to return. And number 1. Jango Fett was digitally removed from the Separatist meeting. One of the major upsides of shooting scenes in such a heavily controlled all-digital environment is that it allowed Lucas to easily make adjustments to basically every aspect of the movie in post-production. For instance, Jango Fett originally appeared in Count Dooku's meetings of the Separatists, which Obi-Wan witnesses, but during editing, Lucas decided that he wanted to keep Fett's connection to Dooku ambiguous until way later in the story. And so Fett, who was stood behind Dooku during principal photography, was painted out of the scene, which you'd never ever guess without being told first. And those were 20 things you didn't know about Attack of the Clones. Are there any other awesome behind-the-scenes facts we missed? Let me know down in the comments below, drop the video a like if you enjoyed it, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss another upload going forward. I've been Ewan, may the force be with you, and I'll hopefully see you next time.